July 8th, 2016. Gotta say, it feels pretty good to sleep in a bed again. After Athens airport last night, the seats without armrests were all taken, so I ended up having a bench, I guess a row of seats, but they all had their armrests, so I kind of had to snake my way around the armrests. And so I probably only got a few hours of sleep, maybe if that, and the airport was really, really alive. At even 3:30, it was like all the shops were open, people were walking past. It was really, really busy. And so I must have gotten up around probably 4 a.m. and then had some breakfast. Camille arrived fairly early. I think she must have been there, well before 6. And so we had plenty of time to get ourselves sorted and onto the plane. It was a super quick flight. It was about half an hour, I think we were in the air for, before landing here in Santorini. When we landed, so Camille went to her hotel, which is in sort of another part of the island, and then I'm in the main town in Fira. I just wanted to be, after all the bus travel and everything, I just wanted to be somewhere central where I wouldn't have to think about catching a bus into the town center, or because all the buses on Santorini, they connect through the town center, so if you want to go from one side of the island to the other, then you have to change buses in the town that I'm in. So I was just I just want to be somewhere central. I just want to hop on a bus from the airport and arrive, rather than hop on a bus, get somewhere only to transfer and wait to go somewhere else where I may or may not be able to check in straight away because it was quite early in the morning still. We landed before 8 a.m. And so it's just I just want something nice. I really want just traditional Santorini, classic Santorini. Just that view out over the ocean and down into the old port. That's just really what I wanted, and that's pretty much what I got. The hotel that I'm at, it's in the very center of the town center, of Fira, and prime location. So I totally love it. And they did allow me an early check-in, but it wasn't until must have been about noon. So I had about 4 hours to have breakfast and explore the town, and it really did take about 4 hours. There's so much, it's a very old town, or at least it's set up that way for the tourists. More on that later. And so just exploring all these little passageways and finding out where things like the supermarket are, and walking down hundreds, possibly thousands more stairs or steps down to the old port, which is straight down to the bottom of, I guess, towards the volcano. And it's just walking around with all these passageways all through town, just empty, because none of the tourists were awake yet. And I thought, oh wow, it's just so incredibly beautiful, and it's just like it is in the postcards, and oh my goodness, I love it here. And then as the day has worn on, so after I did lots of exploring, I checked into the hotel, and then pretty much straight away I just went to sleep. So, a shower and then a few hours of sleep, and then I wanted to, so that took me up until pretty much evening time. But sort of late morning, the tourists were up, probably out and about by maybe 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And then from there on, it just got busier and busier and busier. And all these shops that had been closed and shuttered this morning were now selling things like watches that are thousands of dollars, and gelato everywhere, and Greek souvenirs of olive oil soap times a million. And so it felt like a very different Santorini from when I first arrived in the morning until the afternoon. And then, I mean, it's still pretty, like looking at the views from everywhere. It's really stunning. And then, so I had a few hours of sleep after that, and my shower, and then I went out later on had a bit of dinner, had a lot of dinner, and then I wanted to watch the sunset, and I did, and it was beautiful. I couldn't quite place my feelings on it, as in Santorini. I knew that my thoughts about Santorini had changed from this morning when I arrived to sunset tonight. And it occurred to me that one of the things, it went from a very positive feeling to almost, I would say, like a negative feeling. And I think the reason is because as I looked around, so when the sun was setting, I was looking at hordes of people who were also out watching the sunset. And as I looked around at faces, people were all dressed up, all fancy-like, and they had their selfie sticks, or they were eating really, really fancy dinners. And they had all the expensive jewelry on, and they looked like maybe they were on their honeymoons, or they were out just fresh off the cruise ship, or that's like their usual family holidays to Santorini, and just very well-off people for the most part. But it looked like in their eyes, it just looked like they were sad, but they had come to Santorini to be happy, or they wanted to be happy, so they came to Santorini. It feels very artificial, and it probably is because it is so touristy, and maybe outside of sort of June, July, August, the height of the tourist season, maybe it's a lot better, where sort of the locals sort of reclaim their island. But for right now, it just seems like it's just full of people who are unhappy in their lives and have come to Santorini to try and, I don't know, recreate something, or to take a moment out of their lives to try and be happy again, because Santorini promises those postcard beautiful sunsets. So I could be entirely wrong, but that was just what I felt tonight when everybody was out watching the sunset. And I want to go out, so when I wake up it's really early, it says it's 9:30 at night. So shortly after this, I'll probably go to bed, to sleep rather, and then I want to wake up early around sunrise to walk from Fira, where I am now, over to Ia. I think it's Ia. Again, another name that I'm not really too sure on for spelling, but spelling, pronunciation, so different. And it's about maybe a 3-hour walk along the cliff tops from one village through a few, and you finally end up at a sort of a distant village. And I'm looking forward to that because I know that the tourists, and myself included, right? Like, I'm a tourist as well, but it's just nice to get away from these hordes of people on Santorini and get up early and walk somewhere without having lots of people all dressed up fancy in my way. So it should be a good walk tomorrow, and because it will be so early, it should be out of too much of the heat of the sun. The other thing that I hadn't that never appears on the postcards. So the feeling of this evening obviously doesn't come across in a postcard. And also the relentless wind, which makes sense because this is a little island in the middle of the Mediterranean where it's going to get a fair bit of wind, but it was pretty much all day where it's just been blowing a really steady wind. And I assume that that'll be the same tomorrow. But it never occurred to me that when you look at a postcard, I've never been thinking, oh, it's probably really windy because it's a little island out in the Mediterranean. And so, yeah, my perception of Santorini, my whole idea of what this place is totally different. So yes, it looks exactly like the postcards, but the feeling to me is a lot different than what I had before I arrived. I think probably towards the afternoon tomorrow, I probably will leave Santorini. I think 2 pretty much full days here is enough for me. And I just haven't figured out where I want to go to next. I think I want to go to Crete. There's a ferry that leaves tomorrow afternoon. And it just looks like a much bigger place with a lot more opportunities to go kind of tuck myself away in some cheap little beachy area and just hang out there at a nice beach, maybe with less wind, and I can just kind of, and that would give me it would give me pretty much 6 days before so I have a flight booked out of from Crete to Italy, and so I just think to have 6 days there should be a good thing, rather than taking a ferry for a half day up to Mykonos or Paros or any of the other islands that are further north up towards Athens. I just kind of want to go south and just want to hang out somewhere. So I'm pretty sure that's what will happen tomorrow. But I still need to go down to the Newport area and buy tickets and confirm that that's actually times that the ferries are leaving tomorrow and everything. So it should be a really good last day if it is going to be my last day in Santorini, just with that walk. And I'm hoping to catch up with Camille. Maybe we'll do lunch together before leaving or something. I think she's still planning on getting an ATV tomorrow, so she'll be plenty mobile around the island. Yeah, I think that's all I needed to say again tonight. Good night.